I hope you have got a fair amount of idea about arguments and what we do with arguments. Arguments are nothing but passing variables to a function with values, essentially the pointer to the values. Now, the next thing is that there are two types of arguments. One is positional argument and the other one is keyword argument. So far, whatever I have discussed, those were all positional arguments. What I mean by that? So the first thing is that when you send positional argument, let's say you define a function like this. Let's say DEF process order, order ID, order price, quantity and description. So, and of course you have your block of code inside of this function definition. Then when you call the function, what function will do? It will process the order ID as integer, price as decimal, quantity as integer and description as string in the code block. Correct. So that's how we have defined the function, because order ID has to be as integer because that's how it has been defined. Now let's say we call the function using process underscore order. Now when we pass, we have to be completely sure that we pass integer to order ID, price to order price, quantity to quantity and description to description. Otherwise what would happen? The process inside or the code block inside the function might fail, because it is processing order ID as integer, price as decimal, quantity as integer and description as string. If you send quantity as string, let's say you are doing some mathematical calculation using quantity, then it would fail. So the position matters a lot here. You can send anything. You can, let's say you can put 345.65 here and 12345 here, electronics here and quantity here. What it would do to actually get the value, because it's a pointer, right? There won't be any problem in accepting the pointers, but the problem would be in processing or executing the code block inside of this function, because the code block executes order ID as integer, price as decimal, quantity as integer and description as string. So if I send order ID using the same name, that's why I said it is a good practice to give them the same name, because you would know order ID is actually order ID which you have received either from database or from a file. So if you are getting it from database or a file, it would contain the correct value. Same is the case with price, quantity and description. Then we have keyword arguments, which are a little different. Here order does not matter. So let's say I define the same function. We define process order with order ID, order price, quantity and description. And the processing is same. It will process the order ID and quantity as integer, price as decimal and description as string. Now while calling the function process underscore order, we mention this order price equal to certain value, order ID equal to certain value, description equal to certain value and quantity equal to certain value. Now as you can see, there's no order maintained here. Order price is coming first, order ID is coming next, description is third, and then quantity is last, which is not the position in the function. But it does not matter, because we are putting the exact variable name here also. So the moment we mention order price here, this will be mapped with this order price which is there in the function definition. So the value 110.75 would be captured here. Same is the case with order ID. This order underscore ID would be mapped with order underscore ID in the function definition. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5 would be received in this variable. Same is the case with description and quantity. So this is what keyword arguments are, and the name of the argument should be same. It cannot be that here you have order price, here you mention just price. That will not work. So let's see this in action. So this is the function that I have defined, process order. I have order ID, order price, order quantity and order description. So I'm just printing, I'm not returning any value. So again, purpose is to not write any logic, purpose is to show you how it works, how positional argument and keyword argument works. So first I'll talk about the positional argument. Now I'm passing process order. Here the names are different, ID, price, quantity and description. So if I pass ID and then price and then quantity and then description, it is fine, because what is happening here, ID would be mapped with order ID because we are using positional argument. Price would be mapped with order price, quantity would be mapped with order quantity, and description would be mapped with order description, and it will do the execution. Or let's say I'm doing some calculation, some So I'm just multiplying it by 20 for some reason. And order price, I'll just divide order price with 11. So that's what we are doing. That's fine, because I want to show you some calculation on the integer and decimal data type. Correct. So after doing this, I'm printing this argument. So this is fine. This will work because ID is actually integer, price is decimal, quantity is integer, and description is string. So as you can see, it is working. Now if I change it, let's say I put the price or description here, price here, and maybe ID here, ID would work, and quantity here. So everything will go haywire because we are using positional argument. So the description would map with order ID. So the description stationary items would be captured here, and it would be printed also. And price is fine, and ID is also fine. So I'll change the location of, maybe I'll put price here and then description here, because I want to get an error, because we'll see that this is how positional argument works. So price would be mapped with order ID and it will print properly, and description would be mapped with order price. So description is actually string, so string cannot be divided, so it is giving error, unsupported operand types / because it's string and end. But I can see the order ID, which is 500.75. It is also not correct, but because I'm just printing, it is working. This is how positional argument works. And you have to make sure that the positions are absolutely correct. That's why it has to be ID and then price and then quantity, finally description, right? Now it would work as usual. So this is what positional argument is. The next up is keyword argument. Now in keyword argument, what we do, you use the same value. So order ID equal to maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then let's say order quantity equal to 20. Order description equal to keyword argument squark. And then order price equal to 200.76. This is also fine. Now it will go ahead and execute it. No problem, because we are using order ID. So matching order ID and order ID, order quantity and order quantity, position does not matter anymore, because we are using the keywords which are defined in the function itself. So we have defined order ID, we have defined order price, order quantity and order description, and that's what we are passing. Now what will I do is I can pass the values also. So here I have hard coded, but that is not how I should do. I'll pass the ID here, then the quantity variable, then the description variable, and then the price variable. So this can also be done, and the output would be similar because the variable contains the value. Now let's do something. Let's pass with different keywords. So instead of order ID, I just mention ID, and instead of order quantity, I just mention quantity. Okay, now if I execute this, it will give error saying that got an unexpected keyword argument ID. Why it's an error? Because this ID is not defined here. But if I change it to ID, this error would go away because the name has to be same. Now there's a different error. Keyword argument quantity, because I have mentioned quantity here, and here I have mentioned order underscore quantity. So now if I change it, there won't be any error. Now obviously there's a problem. Order quantity does not have any value because I am supposed to get the value using order quantity, and I have changed it. But anyway, the argument error is gone. This is how keyword and positional argument work. And you can either pass keyword argument or you can pass positional argument also, depending on how and to use the function. Right, so that's all about positional and keyword arguments in functions.